Hello, everybody. I hope you're all having a great day. I'm going to show you a pen that I got the other day, and I had an unboxing video of it on my channel here, and it's the Conway Stewart 106. And Conway Stewart is a pen manufacturer in England, and I've long been interested in their products, vintage pens, of course. Um, and though I've often bid on them, I've never actually been able to win the bid on eBay, and it became sort of a grail pen to me. And I was lucky enough to win this to my to have a bid that won this beautiful Conway Stewart. I got it on eBay, and I got it on a at a good price actually, and I'm very happy to have it. And it's actually usually Conway Stewarts are known for their very colorful materials and beautiful designs. And I have a thing for black and gold pens, and this is almost perfect for me. Uh, it's a really heavily gold plated clip and cap band. It's got a gold nib, and it's sort of a design that I'm quite interested in. Namely, it has a hooded nib, and it's sort of reminiscent of a design, say, of the Parker 51 of that period. Parker 51 became one of the it just changed the design of pens when they introduced the Parker 51. It was a very futuristic design, and other manufacturers started following suit and came up with designs that were very much based on Parker's groundbreaking design. The Conway, in some ways, started to go downhill after the 106. Ballpoint pens started coming into production, and companies that for years and years did so well designing beautiful fountain pens had to compete against lower cost pens. And some things I've read about the 106 is that it's referred in some cases as the last great Conway Stewart pen. Uh, their products started to become cheaper and not as well made, and the fortunes of the company declined, and eventually it did go out of business. Recently, in the last 10 years or so, maybe a little longer, the name was relaunched, and nowadays Conway Stewart makes very expensive luxury fountain pens beyond my beyond my budget by far. But you can still find numerous examples of the vintage pens on different sellers and eBay, and sometimes they go for quite expensive, and once again outside my budget. But I was very lucky to find this one on a site. An antique dealer was had a couple of pens, and this was one of them, and I was able to bid on it, and I was the only bidder, and I won, and I am so happy with this pen. Uh, anyway, I did a little bit of work on the interior of the pen. I had to replace the ink sac, but everything else was actually in fairly good shape. Um, the filling mechanism is an aerometric filler, very much like the Parker 51, and you still see this design of filling system on the Pilot Metropolitan. So it's, you can still find parts for it. The metal on the the casing was actually very good shape, wasn't corroded. There was no problems with that. I just had to replace the latex sac within the tube, and that's fairly easy to do. You can still get all kinds of latex sacs. The one that it took is a number 14. That's the size. And I usually get my latex sacs from a company in the United States called Anderson Pens. They have lots of different materials for pen restorations. You can find parts for some of the pens. You can buy so, but I get my latex sacs, my ink sacs from Anderson Pens. Just a little shout out to a nice company. So I'm actually going to use an ink that I haven't really used before. Actually, I picked this up at the Bookmark in Charlottetown here, and it was on sale. So I thought, I was thinking I should try a Sailor ink. I have lots of Noodler inks, and I have Diamine and a few other, uh, ink brands, but I haven't had a bottle of Sailor. I've had samples from friends, and I thought this blue would be quite interesting. It's a sky blue. A lot of the blues I have are very dark for whatever reason. But apparently this is a brighter blue by the look of the sample at the store and the label. So what you do is you put the you nib in the ink and you squeeze the little pressure bar, and you try to it is a little tricky sometimes using these old pens. You can hear the air. I'm going to give it a couple. One thing I did notice is the bar tends to stay down a bit, but if you pop it up with your finger, you can feel the ink sac filling up. And I just leave it in for a minute and get it full. I'm just going to wipe that off. And I hope this is a nice ink. It's always interesting trying a new ink. I'm not too sure about the bottle though, and I'm looking at it, it's an odd shape. It seems very low and wide. Um, so I'll have to figure out when it gets down low if I can fill the fountain pen from that shape of the bottle. So it's Sailor Gentle Ink Sky High Blue. 50 milliliters. Nice weight to it. Oh, okay, that looks nice. So I'm just going to put that back on. Now this is a semi-hooded nib. And sometimes, conversations with other fountain pen users, some people have trouble with hooded nibs. They can't quite find the sweet spot, they're always looking at the nib to see where the alignment on the paper. But what I tend to do, it's a trick somebody told me, is I line up the clip with the nib so that I have a guide to where the nib alignment is. This actually, when it's posted, is a nice long pen. It's a vintage pen, so it's probably a bit thinner than many contemporary pens, and that's typical of vintage pens. They're smaller, they tend to be lighter, and not as girthy as contemporary pens. We tend to like bigger and wider pens these days. Just going to do a little writing sample to see how it goes. One thing I notice about myself is I can't write and talk very well. I'm only capable of doing one thing at a time. I never knew. So oh, that's a beautiful color. I like that actually. It's very light blue, very nice. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So I'm not too sure if it's the pen that's dry or the ink. Probably ink, actually. There seems to be very good flow, but it is a dry ink. Actually, that's something I've noticed from the samples I've tried of different Japanese inks. They tend to feel dry to me, and I like wetter inks personally, but this is actually a very nice blue. So one thing I'm noticing is that the nib is very, very smooth, very nice. And I did a little bit of tuning on the nib. I used micro mesh just to smooth it out to a level I like. There's no line variation at all. It's a very stiff nib, and that's to be expected with a hooded nib. And all in all, I'm very pleased with this pen. I love fountain pens, modern and old, but what I really like doing is tinkering with pens. I love trying to, when I find an old pen that needs just a little bit of work on it, or a lot of work sometimes, and it's part of the hobby. Not to everyone's taste, vintage pens. Sometimes they're finicky. They need a little bit of work and love and care, and but it's part of the hobby that I really love, like working with old pens. And I'm very pleased with this pen. It's going to be, a nice piece in my collection. Hopefully sometime I'll be able to get a couple more examples of Conway Stewart. I might want to get one of the nice celluloids, the colorful ones. They have different materials and different finishes, different sizes, but pleasant pen. Beautiful pen. I'm really happy with it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. And you know what? I'd love it if you subscribe. It's great to see the channel slowly growing, and it's fun learning about YouTube. And also, if you have any experience with Conway Stewart's, please comment. I love finding out more information. Part of the hobby for me is learning about different brands and different pens and tricks that somebody might have for restoring pens. Uh, uh, just also, so many people have memories of growing up as children and using different types of fountain pens for writing and drawing, and that's what I'm interested in. So if you have something you'd like to tell me, I'd love to hear it. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.